Obviously, appetite for the fledgling oil sector is growing. How are you positioning Namibia? Because we don't know Namibia as a potential oil economy.
Yes, that's correct. Lerato, Namibia is not really known as a big oil and gas exploration destination, but lately over the last year or so, I think Namibia has really started attracting a lot of the sort of bigger and major oil companies. I think exploration started really off again in 2004, 2005, when small oil companies started to come and explore for opportunities. And I think they went ahead and did some work, which they used to attract larger companies and so on. And I think lately we've seen the larger independents, even majors, looking at Namibia very seriously.
I mean, obviously, we can't always be in the exploration stage. We need to start producing. We know that it's found that Namibia has an estimated 11 billion barrels in reserve. What's being done to tap into that?
Yeah, I think it's important to clarify that, to put that figure into context. Because what we're saying is that, you know, there is potential for those amounts of reserve. So what we basically call it resources at this point in time. And the proof of the pudding, I would say, in this industry is in the drilling. So I think it's only after you've drilled can you actually go and determine that you have those kind of reserves available. But I think so far theory and the science is indicating that there is a big potential, even more, it could even be more than 11 billion barrels.
How are you attracting investment in this particular area? Because we're already hearing that by year's end you want to close the open licensing system. Why is that?
Well, I think one of the reasons why we are closing the open licensing system is that most of the prospective blocks or areas have actually already been taken. By year's end, we would have licensed basically the entire offshore. So it just serves no purpose, I think, for us to keep the open licensing system open. One also needs to remember that the open licensing system is something that we actually went into because of a lack of interest in 1999. But before that, we used to have licensing rounds. We had a first licensing round, we had a second licensing round, and we only went into the open licensing system because of a lack of interest. But now, the interest has really been so huge, we are thinking of seriously going back to bidding systems, because open licensing system is basically almost like a come-as-you-go type of approach, and the country cannot really actually try and get more for the resources that it has by actually bidding.
Understood. Now explain something to me, because I'm not a geologist, but we're told that geologically, if that's the right term, Namibia looks very much like Brazil. And because of that, you're quite keen to work with the Brazilian company Petrobras. You're also willing to work with the British Petroleum. Why are these preferred bidders here for you?
Okay. I think that the Brazilians, as you mentioned, they are paying a special interest to Namibia because obviously of the historic proximity between Africa and Brazil. As you know, a geology lesson, you would sort of understand that Brazil and Africa used to be joined together, and it would just make sense that there is oil in Brazil, that you might have some, as you have oil in Africa as well. You might have oil in Namibia as well, because some of the areas in Namibia are adjacent to some oil-producing regions of Brazil. So it just makes sense for the Brazilians to have an interest. And I think for a company like Petrobras, who is actually a deep water explorer, and they have oil in Brazil, and I think all the other people are also following what Petrobras are saying, and I think that's why even companies like BP and so on are deciding to come, because obviously Petrobras being one of the biggest deep water explorers, I think it would make sense for other people to have a look what Petrobras is doing. Not only Petrobras, in fact, they are not the first Brazilian company. I mean, there is another Brazilian company, HRT, who has actually were here before, and I think they've done work, and I think they've done a lot of promotion work for Namibia, and it's after that that Petrobras and others really came on board.
All right, let's move beyond petroleum and start talking about gas, because that's also very fashionable these days. We know that you're working very closely with Tullow Oil and they're leaders in this particular area of exploration. Namibia is estimated to have 1.3 trillion cubic feet of gas reserves. How much work has been done and accomplished on this side?
Yeah. Well, I think from a gas point of view, I think we can say that the 1.3 trillion cubic feet that you're talking about is actually proven reserves. It's not like the 11 billion barrels that we were talking about. So this is proven, it exists. There's a certain amount, a certain percentage that is recoverable from that 1.3 TCF. We are fortunate that, you know, at the same time that we have this boom in oil exploration, we have done a lot of negotiations. A lot of work has been done by Tullow and the other upstream partners, together with the downstream players, NamPower, to basically move the Co2 Gas power project forward. As you know, I mean, this resource was discovered way back in 1974, and it's really been problematic to bring it on stream because gas is, unlike oil, is very difficult to actually develop, because especially if it's not close to the markets, you know, you can have a situation where the gas can be so-called a stranded gas resource. However, recently what we've done, we have issued Tullow and the other upstream players with a new 25-year production license. We've signed a new petroleum agreement with them that gives them the rights, obviously, to produce this gas. And at the same time, they have been in serious negotiations with NamPower. They have resolved a lot of the issues, the old issues that hindered the progression of the project. And I think, obviously, there are still some few issues that need to be ironed out. But I think we are at a time, I think, where it looks really more positive. And I think there is a very good window of opportunity that exists for this project to take off. But however, I think it will require some support, especially government support, to make it happen.
All right, and a final question and a brief answer, please. A lot of oil and gas companies, when they come to Africa, their biggest concern is the security of their licenses, those tenures, power sharing agreements that they negotiate with governments, royalties, and those kinds of elements, because ultimately it is their capex, it is them who invest the bulk of the money to get these resources tapped, and they need to have a fair return. How are you ensuring that you overcome some of these stumbling blocks?
Well, I mean, fortunately, Namibia is known as a country with the rule of law. I think our legal system is tried and tested. I think international investors have security of tenure. I think there's been no, example of people losing their licenses and so on. And I think our court system is quite proficient enough to be able to take on even government in case government obviously does things that it's not supposed to do. But we are confident. I mean, there is political stability in this country. The rule of law, as I was saying, is there. That's why I think a lot of companies see the need to come here and do exploration, because I think that's one of our biggest advantages, having a political, stable and an economic environment that is actually best suited for investment. So that isn't really a problem, I think, for a country like Namibia. And I think there is a lot of confidence from the investment community to come here and get these licenses and explore for oil and gas.